Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 11th episode of Paranormal Road Trip with Jen. I finally was able to change the name. And tonight we have Greg, who is the founder of Tri-C Ghost Hunters out of Ohio. He runs the Old St. Joseph Hospital in Lorain, and this weekend they are going to have a psychic and paranormal fair on Saturday and Sunday. He's here with us tonight to discuss this and the hospital and what you can do to get in there. And I personally can tell you it is a place worth visiting. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Jen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
As good as can be.
Good to hear that you're doing all right. I know you had a busy weekend.
And we've got a busy weekend coming up, and then the weekend after that's another busy weekend.
That's the way my life's going right now. The paranormal kind of takes over.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, as always with our guests, I would like to start with some just general questions so everyone that listens to the show can get an idea of who you are and how you got involved with the paranormal.
Okay.
So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourselves, I have a few questions if you don't hit the answers I was looking for.
Okay. All right. Well, a little bit about me. I've been investigating since 1991. That's when I did my first investigation. For 29 years, I was a police officer. I retired in 2011, and the paranormal right now is my full-time job. I got involved in the paranormal probably when I was about 10 or 12, just reading everything about Bigfoot and UFOs and Loch Ness Monster, aliens, and lastly were ghosts. So that's when I, understood and figured out what the paranormal was.
That's interesting. I also investigate cryptids, and I believe I told you I investigate the dogmen.
Mm-hmm.
And I ghost hunt as well. And I actually went to college for criminal justice, so we also have that in common.
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned you were 10 or 12 when you got interested in the paranormal. Is there a defining moment that you knew when the paranormal existed?
Not when I was younger. I didn't have any experiences or anything. I would have to say it's probably my first investigation in 1991, when we captured something on video that I couldn't explain that really was pretty weird. Basically, we caught this green glowing light on our old VCR recorder, or I should say VHS recorder.
I remember those.
Yeah, the big ones that you had to hold on your shoulder.
I believe my aunt still has hers in the basement.
But, back then, when I was just starting out, I didn't have any night vision stuff or anything like that. We just basically set up this huge VHS camcorder in my buddy's bedroom because he was having a lot of weird stuff going on in his house. And, the next morning, upon reviewing the video, we captured this weird green glowing light coming up from behind the bed, at the foot of the bed. And it was green, pulsating and getting bigger and bigger, and then it just dissipated.
Sorry, that's my 2-year-old giggling.
Oh, you think it's funny?
His dad's tickling him.
Well, but that wasn't the strangest thing. The strangest thing, and I know this sounds kind of bizarre and crazy, but I assure you it happened, and I still have the tapes to prove it. When I tried to show this videotape to other people outside of the house where we recorded it at, the green light wasn't there.
So you could only see it in that home.
In that home, I mean, there was a lot of electrical interference that you could see. And when I would play that video out of that home, you would see all the electrical interference, but then there would be no green glowing light. And this light like lit up the whole screen.
Wow.
And the only way that we could get it to play anywhere else was we actually set up a video camera in his house, played it on his TV, and recorded the TV. That is the only way that we were able to play it anywhere else. I know it sounds bizarre, but I still have those VHS tapes. The original one that shows nothing and the recorded one that shows the green light.
That's interesting. I would have saved those tapes too.
Yeah, so that was the first time I decided, maybe there is something here, because he would see the apparition of a young woman in his bedroom, just like floating there. He would see her from like the chest up, and even he would wake up his wife, and she actually saw it too, and they actually saw that several times while they were living in the house.
Did you ever find out if she was connected to the house, or if it was someone that him or his wife knew that passed?
Well, the story goes that this house was moved from its original location, and that the woman who used to live there was killed in a traffic accident on that road.
Well, that's interesting.
So, but back then I was just so excited that, I didn't even start researching or doing any of that. So I was just so excited that I captured something, which I thought was pretty cool.
I would have been too. I would have been excited about that as well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So that was your defining moment when you knew they existed.
I knew that there had to have been something there. Yep.
Now, when did you start your own team, and what made you decide to start Tri-C Ghost Hunters?
Well, when I first met my wife in 2000, we decided that we had the same interests. So we actually started investigating on our own. Just her and I, and every once in a while we'd take our kids to haunted locations, mostly like bed and breakfast and inns. But we decided that, hey, you know what? Let's take this a little further. So in 2005, we joined another team. And we were with that team until 2012. And then things just, weren't working out. And there were 9 of us on the team and 7 of us left. Wow. And a couple of us decided to form another team. So we formed Tri-C Ghost Hunters in January of 2013.
I formed mine in 2014. So no, it was 2013 as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I was with another team as well and decided to go out on my own.
Yep. That's and we've when we first started our team, I think we started off with like 8 or 10 members.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, right now we're up to 45.
Now, this question will lead into what else I was going to ask. Can you tell everyone what Tri-C stands for?
Yes. A lot of people say, what does that mean? We have 3 teams in Ohio, 1 in Cleveland, 1 in Canton, and 1 in Columbus. Hence the 3 C's, Tri-C.
And the only reason I knew that was because I looked at your webpage and I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yep. And people are like, Tri-C, what's that? I got, let's put it this, outvoted on the name for the team. So, but I've gotten accustomed and used to it. And, I kind of like it now. And I know people, they kind of don't like the ghost hunter term, because if they say you're not hunting ghosts, and I say to that, it's like, it's no different than an Easter egg hunt, a scavenger hunt, a manhunt. You're not going out there killing things, you're seeking. And that's another definition of hunt, is to seek. So,
that's a fabulous explanation.
So no, we're not out there to kill ghosts, and we don't carry guns, but we look at it as like scavenger hunt, Easter egg hunt. We're seeking.
You can't kill them; they're already dead.
That's right. We're seeking answers.
There you go.
So
that explains it all, or a lot. I like how you explain that. I really do. You told me that you have 45 current members. Now, is that just in the team that I met this weekend, or is that statewide?
Well, that is statewide, and we have three different types of team members. We have our full-time investigators, who we actually have 20 of those, and those are the ones that investigate the private homes, which we do. In fact, we had a team today that was at a home doing a pre-investigation. We had a team on Monday doing another pre-investigation, and I think we have another pre-investigation. Is it tomorrow? Let me see. I think we have when is that one? Oh, on April 28th, we have another investigation. So we do a lot of private homes. But so we have 20 full-time members, and then we have our auxiliary members who they just help out, where needed. If we do conventions or fairs or something like that, or presentations, they'll help out at those. And then we have what you would call our St. Joseph Hospital team, which these people were brought on to mainly help out at St. Joseph Hospital for the private investigations there.
And I've told you before, I really enjoyed your team that I met this weekend.
Well, I appreciate that.
They are fabulous.
It's nice to hear.
I'm looking forward to coming back in August, and I told Megan and Kendra that I really hope they're there that night, because I really enjoyed ghost hunting with them.
Yep, there are a couple of our newest members. So they're still learning the hospital.
That's what they were telling us the other night. They said, just bear with us. We're still learning.
Yep.
We did that. Now, can you tell me the most prominent experience you've ever had investigating?
Yeah, I don't really see anything. Like, I'm one of these people who don't really see apparitions. Every once in a while, I'll see a shadow, but it's got to be my physical contacts. I've had several of those. One time, God, this was a while ago. I was actually shoved from behind while I was filming other investigators.
Wow.
At another location, this was just a couple years ago. I got what I call my throat slashed in an old hotel in Indiana.
Would it be the Rhodes Hotel?
It would be the Rhodes Hotel.
I was there last November. It's an active place as well. Oh
yeah, we had a lot of activity there. My wife had physical contact there. I had physical contact 2 different times in the same room, and one time it felt like I had my throat slashed, and then the other time it felt like I got stabbed in the side. So I was probably feeling maybe some residual stuff that happened years ago, but those hurt. But just for brief moments. And then I've had several at St. Joseph Hospital in the short time that we've been investigating there. So
when did you start investigating there?
Our first investigation there was in October of 2015.
Okay. Yeah, it's not been that long, has it?
Nope, not at all.
And where are some of your most favorite places you've been investigating?
Well, I'd probably have to say some haunted castles in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Not necessarily the most active, but definitely the most coolest places I've ever investigated. I mean, what are some of the oldest places over here that we can investigate? Late 1700s, early 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
There, where we investigated a couple castles, from the 12th century.
Wow.
And in fact, this one castle, we were the only ones there. I mean, we spent a couple nights there, and we were the only ones spending the nights in the castle, and we had the whole run of the place. And so that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
Was it creepy though?
Not really. I didn't find it creepy. It wasn't a huge castle. It was more like it was a castle hotel. Mm-hmm. And later on, I found out it was in the top 5 of the highest rated castle hotels in all of Europe. So, but no, I didn't feel creeped out or anything there. I did. My wife actually had some friends who actually stayed in the same castle, and they had some experiences, and that they were skeptics. In fact, her friend actually started believing in the stuff after he stayed at that castle.
I really like when you have skeptics and then all of a sudden they change their mind.
Oh yeah, yep.
They're the fun ones.
Yes, they are.
So can you tell us where your dream investigation would be, or investigations?
Oh yeah. Obviously, I mean, every investigator has probably a dozen of places that they want to go. And I'm sure everybody, this is on their list, is Brand Castle in Romania, Transylvania, Dracula's castle.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to go to the Suicide Forest in Japan.
Interesting.
And one place I would love to go into the United States is the Custer Battlefield.
I think you're the first person I've talked to that would like to go there.
You know what? It's only because, Native American land, and, the Native Americans died there just as well as the soldiers. So, and some of, like, the first time I was ever shoved was in an area that was like Native American land.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Ohio, we have the Cuyahoga Valley,
Right.
which is part of the river that runs south from Cleveland. And that was a lot of Native American land. And a lot of our investigation seems to follow that valley.
Does it? Do they?
Mm-hmm.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, so I would love to do, the Custer Battlefield.
Most people say they'd like to investigate Gettysburg.
We've been there so many times.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you've been there and then you say a completely different place. I personally never would have thought of that.
Oh, it just fascinates me because, you got these soldiers, there's probably a lot of energy there. They got these soldiers who are terrified. I mean, they know they're going to die. They know they're outnumbered and they're surrounded. And it just fascinates me. And, and the Native American aspect of it too. They're very spiritual, and, I believe a lot of their land is, extremely haunted.
I do too. And I'm pretty sure they have a lot of cryptids on there as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sasquatch is a Native American word.
Exactly. Well, let me know if you ever make it there, and I'd like to see the evidence if you have any and hear about it.
Yeah. I don't even know if anybody's ever even investigated there. Everybody else is investigated everywhere else, but I've never even heard of anybody investigating there.
Now, if somebody on TV steals your idea, you can sue them because you said it first.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned your teams do private investigations.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one that stands out that you can discuss? I don't want locations, dates, names, nothing like that. Just generalized.
Yeah, we don't disclose any of that.
We don't either.
But there is one that really stands out, and that was a private home in Parma, Ohio. And in fact, I wrote a book a couple years ago, and this is in my book. And I did get permission from the homeowners to put the story in there. Obviously, changed names and didn't give a location.
Right here.
But this place was the most haunted private home I've ever investigated. And it's not say haunted. Let's say the most active private home I've ever investigated. This place was, I could not stay in this house. I just wanted to run out of the house screaming. The atmosphere was so thick and just so intense that I did not like it. And we had so much activity there. It was crazy. My wife and I and with the male homeowner were down the basement, and she was in the back part of the basement. And she's like, if there's anybody here, can you knock something over? Immediately, something falls over in the back of the basement.
Wow.
And just a lot of stuff. And they had a lot of activity. But our best piece of evidence, and this is my favorite piece of evidence that we've ever captured,
Uh-huh.
was we had a couple investigators upstairs on the second floor in the little girl's room. And we had a video camera in there, and you can see them on the video camera. And they're sitting on the floor talking. And then one of the let me go back a little. They heard something fall in the corner of the room, and you can actually hear it on the video. So they're talking, saying, hey, can you do that again? And then at one point, the one investigator, he got poked from behind. On the video, you can see him lurch forward and then say, whoa, it just hit me in the shoulder. So they get up, and they're trying to figure out what fell. And while they're trying to figure out what fell, we captured a loud, clear, double Class A EVP. It was just an old man, sounded like he was standing behind them, and he just said, how's it going? Loud and clear, not whispers or, hoarse like a lot of the EVPs. This was loud and clear, and it was so clear, and there was like emotion in the voice. It wasn't like, help me, or, hello. I mean, it was like, how's it going? So, we captured it on two different recorders. We captured it on an audio recorder and on the video camera. And at first, when you hear this, and you think it's got to be one of the investigators, but they never react to it. And it was actually louder in the video camera than it was on the audio recorder that one of the investigators was holding.
That's unusual.
But the crazy thing about it, when we went back and did the reveal with our client, we let her listen to that piece of video. And she says, my grandfather used to always say, how's it going? So we took that clip to her mother and her uncle, and they both were able to identify the voice as their deceased father. Once we figured out who it was, all we did is tell them, hey, you're scaring the family. You need to stop it. They know you're here. And they've never had a problem since. And that was back in 2011. But prior to that, they had a ton of stuff going on.
So all of that activity was from him?
That's what we think. Yeah, as soon as we, found out who it was, we're like, hey, you need they know you're here, but you're scaring them. So if you can stop. And he stopped. And they haven't had a problem since. My wife is still friends with them on Facebook, and they're living comfortably in their home now.
That's interesting. It really is. I guess he just wanted their attention.
Yeah, well, he's probably trying to make himself known.
Right.
Which he did. And that's the thing, nobody knows. I mean, why were these, they were hearing heavy footsteps, or the rocking chair would rock, or, doors would slam, or they would see shadows, or get the feeling that somebody's watching them. We don't know what it's like on the other side. So, what do you have to do to get people to know that you're there?
I agree. I know we hear stuff in my house all the time, and last week or the week before, I heard a man. It was kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite interesting. That you just told him he was scaring the family, and he's good with it. And it makes me wonder if he's still there, but just doesn't let them know.
Yeah, who knows? He may still be there watching them, looking out for them, or he may have been there wanting them to know that he was okay, and then he may have went on after that. Well, obviously we'll never know.
Right.
So, but now, that was our coolest. That was the most interesting one we've ever done.
I would say so. That is quite interesting. After you acknowledged him and they acknowledged him, that they had no more issues. And I tell people, when they're like my friend here, she moved in a house, and the lady that lived there before, the couple, the wife had passed away and the husband sold the house.
Mm-hmm.
And she always hears things moving in her daughter's room. Her daughter just turned a year old. And you could
Mm-hmm.
hear it on the baby monitors, things moving and knocks and bangs. And they're getting ready to move, and they were packing their stuff up and getting stuff together for the community yard sale we'll be having. And they were down in the basement. And their son was upstairs. He's 13, watching their daughter. And all of a sudden he yells, "Mom!" All the lights just came on. She walked upstairs and he was scared to death. And she's like, "Do you think that's this lady?" I said, "Tell her that she's welcome, just to not bother you." And they really
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a lot of issues once she acknowledges that she's there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And
And
that's what we found.
yeah, I've done that too here at the house. So before we came on air, we had discussed cryptids. Would you like to share if you've ever seen a UFO, black-eyed children, any cryptids, anything that is not ghostly?
You know what? There were a couple times I thought I saw a UFO, but I don't know. One time I was down in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. Well, in fact, both of these times were in Mexico. And I know Mexico has a lot of UFO sightings.
Right.
But one time I was in Puerto Vallarta, and this was during the day, and way up high in the sky, I mean, there was just like round, shiny object that was just, moving across the sky. I don't think it was a wet weather balloon, because I mean it was actually moving like a jet, but it was round and it was very shiny. So, but I don't know. I just thought it was strange. And then another time was just this past November. We were on a cruise and we were in Cozumel. And as we're leaving Cozumel, we saw this, we were leaving at night, we saw this light. It was like a white light. It was just like, go over the city. It like would go from right to left, and then it would stop, and then it would go back left to right, and then it would go back right to left, and then all of a sudden it just shot up straight up into the sky. And, it could have been a UFO. It could have been a drone. But it did shoot up. I mean, it was going from like right to left and then did a 90-degree and went straight up. So the only thing that I could think of that it could possibly have been what was a drone. But who knows?
Now, did it have? Did you hear me?
No, I did not.
Oh, you said it had lights on it, correct?
It was just a one light. It was just like a white light.
Now, I don't know much about drones. How high can they fly? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
That was
I mean, obviously the military ones can fly really high.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
But I don't know. Just a retail drone that you would get in the store. But I mean, who knows? What this was. It may have been a drone. It may have been something else. It was just very interesting at the time.
You can go ahead, say it was UFO. That'll be your UFO story.
Okay, that's my UFO story.
Now, have you ever encountered black-eyed children?
No.
And have you ever seen any type of cryptid, Sasquatch, Dogman, anything like
that? I actually searched for a cryptid one time and didn't find them. Got the cruise on Loch Ness looking for the Loch Ness monster.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find them.
You didn't find Nessie?
No, I looked and didn't find them. But I do believe that there's, Bigfoot here.
Especially in Ohio.
You know what? I've heard a lot of people say that, and I know that Ohio is like, if it's not the number 2, it's probably the top 5 of the states that have the most sightings. And I know a lot of people have said that, but sometimes it's hard for me to imagine that something that big is in, a state like Ohio. Now I know Ohio, there's got some, areas where, it's kind of vast, but not like, California, Oregon, and, the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do know that people have searched for them. And my thing is, it's a lot smaller area. And how come nobody's found one in Ohio? And I know I've had friends who have searched for them, in Ohio. And
I believe a lot of people have photos and have not released them, or recordings and have not released them. And the same thing goes for dogmen. And I don't know. I hear a lot of, as I told you before, I research dogmen, and I go in the Facebook pages, the dogman Facebook pages, and the Sasquatch as well. And they keep saying when they kill one that the government comes and takes it, and they deny that they were ever there, that it existed.
Yeah, well, I think if somebody would kill them, for one thing, how would the government know? I mean, if I were, I would never go out trying to kill one. But
Right.
let's just say I, hit one with a car or something like that. First thing I'm going to do is probably contact the newspapers, And I know people will say, well, the government will get in there and they'll, make the newspapers, not, print the story and everything. But I don't know. I think if you got enough people and video, and everybody's got cell phones now, so you can videotape it very easy. I mean, they videotape everything else,
Right.
So, I mean, if something like that did happen, you would think that somebody would videotape it, take photos of it. And I know people fake a lot of stuff that happens a lot. But if it was to happen to me, I'd be taking videos. I'd be calling the newspapers, the TV stations, and hopefully the government would be the last people that would find out about it.
Yeah, they say they've had a few killed, but I hear all different types of stories.
Well, it's almost like, well, if one was killed, how would the government know about it right away?
They say the ones that I know about, they've killed in like forests, and the DNR would come and the DNR would clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stories I've been told.
Yeah.
And I saw one here in Indiana cross in front of me last October.
Oh, yeah?
I thought it was a man walking across the road. I was on my way to work. I thought, why is he walking from his yard into the cornfield with a white hat on?
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me. That wasn't a man. I stopped on the bottom of a hill, and I sit there thinking about it now. I'm like, I'm really glad I didn't get rear-ended by somebody coming over that hill when I stopped.
Yeah. And I saw that there was a video of a police officer who was, patrolling. And of course, he's got his video camera on the cruiser, and he saw a Bigfoot run across the road in front of him, and he got out and, tried to find it and everything. But come to find out, it was just a hoax. It was just some teenagers, crossing the road in a Bigfoot costume. So I don't know how often that happens, but I do believe in Bigfoot. The problem is you got all these people who are hoaxing everything.
I agree. And that's the same thing with Dogman.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do got to tell you, I was in Florida last year, and we were hiking through a Florida panther habitat. And, it's almost like entering Jurassic Park. They've got this big fence around it, and you got to go through a gate. And then they have all these like warning signs too, what to do if you come across one. But what I found interesting is on the sign, it says, if you come across any unusual wildlife, call these numbers.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I know that Florida has the skunk ape.
Yep.
And, this habitat's perfect area for the skunk ape. So, it just... And that's the first thing I thought of. It's like, wow, there must be skunk apes in here if they have this sign up there that, tells you if they spot any unusual wildlife. What would be unusual wildlife?
I would have thought the same thing.
Yeah, it's like that's the first thing that came to my mind.
I truly would have thought the same thing. That's
Yeah,
interesting, though. They acknowledge it, but they don't acknowledge it.
right.
Now, you said you were a former police officer.
Yes, that was.
How does this affect how you investigate?
Well, I don't jump to conclusions. You can ask the team. Whenever something happens, it's like, come on, guys. We got to find a logical explanation. You just can't say paranormal. I mean, you got to figure out what caused whatever happen. And I like to have facts. I mean, too many things that happen and that you experience can easily have logical explanations.
I agree.
So
When I first started, it was like, oh, I have this, I have that. And now the more I get into it, I find more and more logical reasons, but you still have evidence that you can't explain.
sometimes, yes. Yeah. Sometimes there's evidence at the end when you try to exhaust everything. There's something that you can't explain, and I'll tell the people too. I mean, it's like, yeah, we can't explain it, but there's no way that we can definitely say it's paranormal. And that's just me. In our team, we actually have 3 retired police officers on our team.
Oh, you do?
So, yeah. So, and we have one who's in the police academy right now. We actually have a couple firemen. One's retired and one's still a fireman.
That's interesting. That's quite interesting.
So, yeah, it's like I need to have all the facts before I can convict.
Now, I would like to discuss your conference coming up this weekend.
Okay.
Can you tell everyone about the Old St. Joseph Hospital Psychic and Paranormal Fair?
I sure can. We are holding our 2nd annual Old St. Joseph Hospital Psychic and Paranormal Fair at a support building adjacent to the old hospital in Lorain, Ohio, this weekend, Saturday, April 21st and Sunday, April 22nd. The hours Saturday are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's free admission to get into the fair. We have a wide variety of vendors. We have paranormal teams. We have authors. We have psychics. We have Reiki healers. We have people who sell jewelry and stones and crystals and everything from popcorn to what else do we have? I think we may even have a masseuse there. So we have a wide variety. We have over 50 vendors that are going to be there.
Wow.
We have 12 speakers that are going to be speaking. I think there's 7 that are going to be there on Saturday. I'm one of them. Oh, yay. We have a great list of speakers. Let me see, who do we have? Adam Bonnet. We have the Mountain Gypsies from Tennessee. We have psychic Melinda Carver. We have Mr. Gettysburg himself, Mark Nesbitt, who came all the way from Gettysburg. We have Rebecca Smuck. She'll be talking about the Ouija board. We have Bill Krejci. He actually, if people in Ohio know about the Franklin Castle, he actually lives in the Franklin Castle.
Does he?
So he will be there talking about the Franklin Castle. And he actually is one of our vendors. And then that's all on Saturday. And on Sunday, we have Lenore Crabill, who will be talking about crystals. We have a Vanessa Salazar, who's a psychic, who will be talking about communication with angels. And then we have a Mike Ricksecker, who's part of our team. He'll be talking about shadow people. He's got several books out. He owns a company called Haunted Road Media. And then we have Victoria Kempton, who's a psychic. She'll be speaking. And then our last speaker is Frank J. Bennett. He'll be talking about his book, Encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we're having raffles. We got about 12 different things to raffle off. We've got some free ghost hunt tickets to Mansfield Reformatory, 2 for the Ghost Hunt Challenge and 2 for the Intermediate Advanced. We have a ghost hunting starter kit that we'll be raffling off. We've got a lot of autographed paranormal books from the authors. We have some celebrity stuff that will be there. We got a wide variety. Then we're also doing day tours of the haunted St. Joseph Hospital. We're actually, most of these tours are going to be with psychics. They'll give our guests, their impression as they're going through the hospital. That is extra. That is $10 per person. And there is no age limit. It's $10 per person for 13 and over. 12 and under is free. And all the money that we get from the fair, even though it's free admission, the vendors still had to purchase tables. And, since we're charging for the day tours, and we have a sold out ghost walk that Saturday night, which is more like a controlled, investigation where people will be taken to 4 of the most haunted locations inside the hospital. People paid for that. But all the money that we get from all of this, less expenses, we are donating to local charities. And we are also doing a food drive too. So if anybody's coming out, bring some non-perishable food items. So we don't keep any of the money, and none of the money goes back into the hospital itself.
I know Marty said Saturday that it goes to charities whenever you investigate there as well.
Yes, all the money that we get from doing all the private investigations and events there go to charity. In the last 2 years, we've donated almost $16,000.
Wow.
And right now, by the end of the fair, well, by the end of April, we should have at least another $10,000 to donate. So, and we do it all for the community. We don't take anything out of it. We're all volunteers that, work there. So give back to the community.
I do know a couple of your vendors and your speakers that will be there. I know the Mountain Gypsies, lovely lady, and Tina Ronan that I interviewed last week will be there as well.
Yes, she was here last year. Both of them were here last year at our fair.
And I'm sad that I couldn't get that table this weekend, but there's always
still available.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, I hate having an empty table. So if anybody out there wants to be a vendor at our table, it's $75 for your location. You get a 6-foot table, 2 chairs, electric hookup, and access to the break room where we will have food and beverages for the vendors. That's for 2 days.
I should bring my kids and come.
There you go.
The hospital will never be the same after they've been there. We've been talking about the hospital. How did you get involved with them?
Well, back in October of 2015, we had an acquaintance who was friends with one of our teammates, and she knew what we did. And she goes, "Hey, I can get you into the hospital." She had connections. So she actually got us into the hospital. So we investigated it once in October and once in November. And then tragically, one of our investigators' son was killed in a traffic accident. He was a senior at Bowling Green University. And, he still had student loans to pay. So I went to the owner of the hospital and asked if we could do a fundraiser there. And he said, sure. So we did a public investigation there. We had like 60 people, and we raised almost $3,500 for her. So
Oh,
that was such a big success that I typed up a proposal for the owners
uh-huh.
and said, hey, can we do this a couple more times? And he's like, sure, but you can only have it until Labor Day, because then after that, you're not going to have access to it anymore. That was Labor Day of 2016. And I'm like, okay. So we did a couple more, and I asked him what he wanted us to do with this money. And he thought for a second, and then he goes, well, why don't you guys keep it? And I'm like, no, I don't feel right about keeping it. I'm like, why don't we donate it to charity? And then he got all excited. So ever since then, we donated to charity. And then, Labor Day's rolling around, and he goes, why don't you guys do a couple more in October? So it just took off from there. We started doing public events. We've had some documentary film crews there filming. We had Nick Roth in the Nick Roth tour there last year. We've had some other events there and movies filmed there. In fact, I was just up in Toronto, Canada last week, being interviewed as an expert. Yeah, right. For a TV series called Haunted Hospitals that they're having up there in Canada, and they're doing some episodes on St. Joseph Hospital. So it's really come a long way in the couple years that we've had it.
And I can say it's one of my favorite places to investigate. And it truly is one of the
It
top.
is very intense inside. And like I said, I am the resident paranormal investigator, the new resident paranormal investigator at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield. And I also run the hospital here, and both of them are awesome, and both are, haunted. I mean, there's a lot of activity, but there's just a little bit more activity at the hospital. And I think that's because it's still fresh. We have an investigation, maybe, 4 times a month, where at the reformatory, there's always people there. But, 2 of my favorite places, and both extremely active, but the hospital is a little bit more active and a little bit more creepier.
I agree. And I don't know if it's because I've been to the prison a couple times and I just recently came there. Maybe it's because it's smaller as well and more confined, as to where the prison is spread out so much. And they have more room to wander around.
It could be. And I think the prison's about 250,000 square feet. And I think the hospital has to be anywhere between 150 to 200,000. It's pretty close in size. I mean, because you figure there's so many areas too in the hospital. I'm sure that you guys didn't even hit all the areas. You guys probably weren't even in the old VA center.
I don't think we were.
Yeah. Or the medical center.
I know very well I was not in labor and delivery.
Yeah, well, you've got, just on the first floor at the hospital, you've got the emergency room, you got surgical, you got recovery, you got the kitchen, you got the cafeteria, you got the chapel, you've got the medical center, you got the VA center, plus all the other support rooms. And then on the one building, on the second floor, you got ICU, CCU. And then on the third floor, you got the morgue and offices up there. And then on the main hospital, you got the second floor, patient floor. And then you got the third floor, patient floor, which is the most active. And then you got the 4th and 5th floors too.
Yeah, we didn't go up to the 4th or 5th.
And you want to know what? And most people don't. But we actually had a reunion of former employees from the hospital, which included a lot of nurses. And we had the reunion over in the break area where you guys, kept your equipment. And we were giving them tours in the hospital, and they were actually giving us tours. And all of them said that the 4th floor had more deaths than any other location inside the hospital.
I will definitely try to make it to the 4th floor on my next visit.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been up there a couple times and I've had stuff happen up there.
Now, isn't psych in the third floor?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I had my bearings there. Now, we're talking about spirits that are there. Is there a story that's one story that's sadder than another that you're aware of?
Yeah, I think that would be the story of a young nurse, Linda Sensak. She was a nurse up on the second floor in oncology area. And in 1981, on her way to work, she was killed in a traffic accident.
Is
And
it
ever since then, nurses and patients have seen her alike. You
is
know, I've talked with and I've seen stories of patients who, you know, they would have a nurse in their room checking on them and everything, and then she would leave. And then another nurse would come in and she would go in there to check on them and do whatever needed to be done. And they would say, well, the other nurse just did that. And she would be like, I'm the only nurse here. You know, so, and I've heard other stories where patients have seen a nurse come into the room, but only visible from the waist up. She had no legs.
wasn't her name Linda?
Linda, Linda Sensak.
When Marty was telling us that story about her on the second floor, we were facing the old oncology department, and the doors were shut. And he was talking to the group, and I was kind of across from him, but I was listening to him, but I was watching the end of that hall where oncology was. And I kept seeing shadows down there, and I was watching it, and he happened to turn around, and we both saw a white mist down there, and he thought it was maybe a doctor.
Oh, yeah?
He confirmed what I saw. I said, you saw that too? And he said, yes. And he kind of floated. Yeah, I was, and he said, he goes, well, when it's starting to be active during the tour, you know it's going to be a good night.
Yeah.
So who do you think is the most active spirit there?
Well, I mean, I've had, especially my wife, she says that there's Dr. Kishman who was the most active, you know, and he's been seen several times by members of our team. My wife, Kathy, has seen him a couple times. She saw him one time up in the morgue area and one time down in the cafeteria. We had another investigator who he's one of our retired state troopers, and he saw him up in the morgue. And you know, he's one of these guys who nothing ever happens to him, and he's, you know, sort of like a skeptic. But he thought somebody was standing next to him, and he turned, and he goes, there was a person and a face staring right at him. And I mean, he jumped back and started doing karate chops in the air, and you know, it scared him at the time. But I would say him. I've never encountered him, but I do know that when the hospital was open, workers in the kitchen area would see the apparition of a man back there. I don't know if that was Dr. Kishman. I don't know when he passed away.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, my wife may know. I think she's done some research. But you know, that's what she says. He's the most active. And then there's another spirit down near the ER, which she calls Snake.
I heard about him too.
Yeah, that's supposed to be pretty active. But you know what? It's like I haven't had any, you know, experiences with them. I mean, I've had, well, maybe Snake's the one who slaps me all the time.
I know Marty said he poked him.
Where did Marty get poked at? What area of the hospital?
The ER.
Okay. Yeah, I've had 4 physical contacts in the hospital. Two of them were in surgical area, between the 4 surgical rooms
Uh-huh.
at 2 different times, but in the same spot. And then one time I was walking down a hall between ER and surgical where something grabbed my hand and started holding my hand as I was walking.
We had activity in the hallways too.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hear the doors slam. And I was drawn to the one surgical room that has all the stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
I did try to get Snake to communicate with us in the ER, but nobody did. And I noticed as well that spirit boxes, you
Mm-hmm.
really don't get anything with those. I only had one lady come through real quick, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you don't I also was told that you don't get a lot of K2 hits, but fortunately we got a few that night.
Yeah, we don't, well, as you know, there's no electricity in the hospital.
Right.
And pretty much the only thing that's going to make the K2 go off are cell phones. So if everybody's cell phones are off or on airplane mode, you shouldn't be getting any hits.
And I do have a question. Marty said he would try to find this out for me. Do you know Dr. Kishman's first name by chance?
No, let me see. Hold on.
I was getting a Brian in labor and delivery is why I ask.
I don't have it in my notes. I just have Dr. Kishman.
Okay.
And I got that from I think the nurses too. We didn't get that name until the nurses at the reunion gave it to us.
One of the girls that was there with me, Katie, that investigated with me, she just messaged me and said about 30 minutes into going through my recordings, I have 5 EVPs, and I almost swear one is saying, "Shut the F up."
Oh, yeah?
That would be in the ER.
That would be Snake.
That must be when I was like trying to get him to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, the coolest one I found so far is me saying, "Does anyone," me, I was in there saying, "Does anyone here want to talk to us?" And you hear a male's voice go, "Who's there?" And then right after that, she says, "Maybe we should introduce ourselves."
Wow.
And I did have a lady say, "Woohoo," when we were downstairs around the ER area.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I found that yesterday.
If you could send those to me, I'd like to hear them.
Okay. I have an older recorder and I'm trying to get everything to upload.
Okay.
If not, I will try to get it transferred over to a recording device so you can be able to hear it.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do a lot of presentations too, and I want to start doing presentations on St. Joseph Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I don't have any evidence because most of the time, when me and my wife were in the hospital, I don't even bring any equipment anymore. I just want to experience things. So her and I will just walk around waiting for something to happen.
And you don't have to wait long.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Now, does your wife ever do the private investigations as a guide, or is she ever there?
Oh yeah, she's part of our team. She's the other founder. Her and me are the founders of Tri-C Ghost Hunters. I
was just wondering because I would thought maybe I can meet her in August if she's there.
Oh well, yeah. It just depends. I mean, she volunteers down at Mansfield too.
Oh, does she?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're both in this together. We're both putting on it was basically her and I who are organizing the fair, and we have one other person who's taking care of all the raffle stuff. But other than that, it's just her and I. I mean, and we have a lot of the other teammates who, we go to the hospital and the building A and we do cleanup, and that they obviously help with the fair. But as far as the actual organizing, it's probably about 60, 70% me and 30 to 40% her. And that's only because I'm retired and she works a full-time job.
Yeah, I kind of talked to her on a post the other day. When I was telling her what I had seen on the third floor, that there is a little girl that crawls along. She thought maybe that's what I'd seen, and I described what I actually saw. And yeah, third floor psych scares the crap out of me, to be honest.
Well, it scares a lot of people. We actually have a pilot for a possible new TV show. And when we were filming, we actually did the hospital. And I was interviewing a former security guard there when the hospital was closed. She did not want to go down that hall to psych. She was scared to death.
Now, I work in a psychiatric hospital, and I was fine in that unit. And I said, hey, I work at a psych hospital as well. I see patients in and out. And I was fine there until I saw whatever I saw. But it scares me, but I will go back. I will go back to that unit and I will finish investigating the third floor.
Well, that's good, because I know of other people I've talked with in posts, here on Facebook, where they said they will never step foot back in that hospital. And that's when they were working there. There was no way you will get me back in that hospital, just because of experiences that they had.
And see, now this is one of my new favorite places. For me, if I experience something like that, I need to face it again.
There you go. That's a good thing.
I'm not sure if Katie will come back or not after her experience there, but I will be. Marty said maybe I have unfinished business there.
Maybe.
But would you like for me to describe what I saw?
Sure, you can describe it for your listeners. I mean, I've already seen it, your description.
Well, you can also read my whole investigation log on BSR Paranormal's Facebook page under notes. But on the third floor, there was myself, Katie, Cindy, Haley, Nita, and your two guides. Maria had, I think she was getting a headache, and she stayed at base camp. And there was Kendra and Megan with us. And I don't remember which one of them said it felt like they were being followed. We went up to third floor psych. We came up the stairwell and entered from there. And we had stopped before the nurse's desk and was doing an EVP session, watching the end of the hall, because when we did our tour, you could see shadows moving. So we were just watching, and Katie decided to take out, and this is kind of funny. It was great if you were there. She is newer to investigating, and she is quite sensitive. And she said, hey, do you want me to take out the motion detector? I said, sure. So she took it over, set it on the desk, and she was about 5 feet away, and the thing turned on, and she took off running back to the group. She was like, oh, and you could just see it just come over her. And we continued doing an EVP session, and the light would shut off. It would come back on. And we decided to move to the end of the hallway where the double doors are that would go out to the hallway. If you turn right, it's labor and delivery. Left is elevators and hospice. And if you're facing the double doors, to your left at the end across from me was Kendra and Megan. There was a doorway. Then Cindy, another doorway. In front of the double doors at the bottom of the upside down U, it looked like, was Haley. To the right to Haley's left, which would be the side I was on, it would be the right-hand side of the upside down U, was Nita. And then the doorway, a doorway or two, and then Katie was standing and I was standing. And Katie told me yesterday, she said that something told her to come over and stand by me. And now she knows why. told her not to sit down, to come over and stand by me. So I was letting them do the EVP session. We had the K2s out. There was some K2 hits in that area, and the motion light came on. But something told me to look down the hallway where we entered. And I was just standing there watching our backs and watching the end of that hallway to see if I could see shadows down there. And something entered that doorway that was shorter than me. And I showed Marty a picture of the rake, the cryptid the rake. It reminded me of that and an alien all together because of the way it was shaped. It was solid mass. It was as solid as could be. It kind of looked gray, like a real dark steel gray. And it had an egg-shaped alien head and really long arms. And as soon as it hit that doorway, it went down on all fours and was crawling along the ground.
Wow.
I made them get out of there because, like I said, they're new to investigating. I had people there that weren't part of my team. And my first reaction, and Katie said you can hear it on the recorders, Cindy has known me for years. And she said, I have never seen you react like that. I knew you were serious. I said, did I drop the F-bomb any? And she's like, no, you didn't. Because I was like, what all did I say? I remember saying, we have to go. We have to get out of here now. You guys need to get up and move. Because whatever that was crawling along the floor. And what it reminded me of when it dropped is how people describe the creeper from Waverly Hills. I haven't seen it, but it would move along the floors and walls like that. And Katie listened to her recorder, and she said you could hear scurrying along the ground and the walls when we were trying to get out of there.
Wow.
So we went through the double doors, and I knew if we weren't right, we would be exposed in case it would follow us down the hallway and through labor and delivery. So we went left into hospice, and the energy was still there in front of the elevator doors. But as soon as we crossed the hospice double doors, it was like day and night. It instantly felt safe. It was calm. It was quiet. It was just a completely different feeling in that area.
Yep. Well, that's third floor psych. That's one of the most active areas in the hospital.
Oh, but I'm going to go back and face my fear.
There you go. That's what you have to do.
But I'm not sure Katie will go back. So we had called Marty and had him come get us out. And then we went and I showed him. He said, can you draw me a picture? No, mine ended up looking like Grimace from McDonald's. Nothing like what I saw. But I showed him a picture of the rake and said it was kind of shaped like that, but yet an alien. And we took a little break and we went to ICU, and I had the best experience up there I think I've ever had communicating with someone.
Well, the hospital does not disappoint.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
And I did promise Agatha I would bring her some new jewelry too. So
there you go.
I've already got her necklace picked out for her.
There you go.
And she was wonderful. I'm an empath, and I have not broke down and cried like that in a very long time because of all the emotion I was feeling from her. And I actually cried that night when I was telling her goodbye.
Wow.
And she got between Cindy and I and communicated not only with the pendulum, but also with the K2. And Marty pulled his pendulum out, and he was getting the same answers as I was. Let's see. They were hearing stuff. I know the ceilings are partially out in some of those ICU rooms. And some of them, I don't remember what room they were in. It was one that runs across from the nurse's desk, but in the next section where so We were in front of, I think it was around 12. They were in the, okay, 6, 7. I think it was like room 8 or 10. And they heard something scurrying along the ceilings.
Oh, yeah.
And they asked if they wanted to leave, if to knock, if they wanted them to leave, and something knocked.
Wow.
So it's quite an eventful place, and I will be happy to come back in August.
We'll be happy to have you back.
I really look forward to it. So, now, do you think certain spirits, I know I've talked about a few different ones here. Do you think the spirits come and go, or do they stay pretty steady? Do certain ones come at certain times of the year?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh, I know, I was told that Dr. Kishman, he'll only allow certain spirits to interact per day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm wondering, do they come and go, stay pretty steady, or is there times of the year they're more active?
I mean, we have people's thoughts and opinions on that, but I have no idea. I mean, how do you know if, the spirits are coming and going, or, if the certain ones are always there, especially when, you're having something like a door slam or, stuff being thrown. I mean, how do you know what spirit is doing that? Or if you see a dark shadow at the end of the hallway. I mean, there's no, police officer and me, there's no way that you can confirm or know that that was Dr. Kishman throwing that, or somebody traveling through, or, whoever slammed that door. There's no way you're going to know. But that's me. You may talk with other people and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's, they're pretty steady there and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I wish I did.
I didn't know if maybe certain ones are more active around the time they maybe passed away. Like Linda, for instance, is she's more active around the time she passed.
I'm not sure when she passed. The only information I have, and I haven't been able to find anything online, and I haven't gone to the library or anywhere to, look for any records or newspaper articles on that. Maybe one of these days when I'm not so busy, I can do that. But all we know is that it was sometime in 1991.
Okay. Now, we were told there's a doctor in labor and delivery.
There's supposed to be a doctor in labor and delivery.
And is he kind of grumpy?
That sounds like Dr. Kishman.
I know he doesn't like for you to cuss.
But let me see. There was a doctor found dead in labor and delivery in the early 90s.
Yeah, he's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was, but his was just a natural death.
Mm-hmm. So do you know exactly what Dr. Kishman did there?
The way I understand it was he was the medical examiner / coroner.
Okay, that explains why he was in the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I know more information for when I visit again.
Right.
So, I just have a few more questions for you.
Okay.
If someone's interested in investigating the hospital, how can they reach you?
Okay, well, right now they can reach us through our website, www.tcghohio.org. But we're going to be in the process of switching our website over to another website. The one that I have now, I don't like, and they're just screwing with us. So now I got to rebuild another website. So, but right now it's through that, or, in the meantime, you can get in touch with us through our Facebook page. Just Tri-C Ghost Hunters, and just send us a message on there.
I know that's how I get a hold of you guys.
That's an easy way.
Yeah. Now, will you personally be attending any paranormal fairs or conferences this year?
We have a couple. My wife and I are heading down to Roan Mountain, Tennessee, at the end of June, for the Gathering 2018 with the Mountain Gypsies.
Hmm.
Kathy and I are going to be running one of the paranormal investigations down there during their fair.
That's interesting. That sounds
Uh,
like a good time.
yeah, it should be pretty fun. And then on the way home, we're actually investigating Waverly Hills. So that'll be a busy weekend.
Have you been there before?
Yes. Mhm.
We just went last year for the first time, and that's another one definitely have to go back to.
Yep. Yep. That's so we're heading back there. Then let's see, August 25th, I'm doing a presentation in Twinsburg, Ohio called Ghosts of Twinsburg.
Hmm.
So we'll be doing a presentation there. And then on September 22nd, we have the Lake Effects Paranormal Conference, which will be up at, where is it, Lakeland Community College.
I got an email about that, and we can't make that one this year.
Yeah. So we'll be doing that. That's just, and then come September, October, I'm just hit with a rash of requests for library presentations. So
Yeah.
I'll
Now,
be busy during those months with those.
and you speaking of October and September, the other large investigation sites like Waverly and the prison, you know how they do their haunted houses.
Yes.
Do you guys do anything like that?
Us as a team?
Or at the hospital, I should say.
No, no,
I was
no.
just
We're
wondering.
too busy to do that.
It just kind of popped into my head when you said that.
I mean, it would
So,
be fun. I've thought about, doing something like that, and I've thought about doing it at the hospital. But it would just take too much work, and we've got so much stuff going on. Uh, we still have the hospital, a lot of investigations, and then we're trying to squeeze. Well, actually, private investigations are our priority. So, we always do the private investigations, but everything else is like you got to squeeze fit it in.
right. I understand completely. Now, are you looking for any new team members or are you pretty set with those?
You would think with 45 members that we would have enough, but but
Right. That's
well, we are looking for team members in like the Akron Canton area.
okay.
So there again, if anybody's interested, they can contact us through our website, tcghohio.org, or through our Facebook page.
And if someone would like a private investigation, how do they contact you? The same way?
The same way. And
Okay.
about the private investigations too, you got two choices. You can have the hospital from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. for $500, or 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. for $600. But we do have to clarify this. We can only have 12 members of a team or friends be in the hospital.
Right.
And but because the reason is that there is no electricity in the hospital, and which means there's no exit signs, there's no emergency lighting. And so the only way that we are allowed to do this is one member of our team has to be with each group inside the hospital. And our purpose is not to interfere with your investigation. It's basically to take you from point A to point B, because you can get lost in there very easy, and to get you out in case of an emergency. And they carry walkie-talkies and a fire extinguisher, and they're just there for safety reasons. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to do any investigations inside the
Right.
hospital.
And I can tell you this, I witness it. It's very, very dark in there.
Very.
I get really, really lost.
Yeah. It's dark and it is creepy inside.
Yes, it is. We did move the Bible in the chapel and we didn't get anything, which I found
Oh, did you
interesting.
guys find the Bible?
Not the one that's missing, but a little
Yeah,
one.
there's a white one that's missing.
Yeah, we didn't find that one. There was a smaller black one that we used.
Okay. And did you get any reaction?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I was kind of sad.
Yeah. So.
And we noticed, and Katie found a confession booth in there as well.
Yep, there is.
And we didn't get anything from that either.
Yeah, there's some, and just like, at Mansfield Reformatory, they actually have it on some of their forms and their websites. Our ghosts aren't on the payroll, so we cannot guarantee that any activity is going to happen.
Exactly.
But for the most part, almost a large majority of people who go inside the hospital have experiences.
Oh, I can't imagine not having anything in there.
Yeah, it's like I said, it is one of the most haunted locations I've ever investigated, and I've been on. Right now I almost lost count, probably between 250 and 300. So and I've been all over the U.S. and Scotland.
And it does not disappoint. You just have to find the area that you can get something in.
Yep, this is true.
And I know Cindy was asking me, excuse me, she kept saying, I don't understand how you guys see these things. And I tried to explain to her that not everyone can see what someone else sees. Like I may experience something and Katie won't. And Katie may experience something I don't. And like with Agatha, she may not have communicated with anybody else that night. And I might have just got lucky and connected with her on some level.
Yeah, it's true.
And maybe she felt comfortable with me. So
could be. Yeah.
Not everybody will experience the same thing, but I can say you'll probably experience something there.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
There's no question in my mind about that. So, you have the kind of wahaha laugh.
Yep. It happens there.
But can you stick around for just another minute? I'm going to end the broadcast.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. All right, everyone. I would like to thank Greg for coming on tonight and sharing his event this weekend and information about the hospital. Like I said, it's one of the most active places I've ever been, and I've been doing this professionally for about 10 years. So, and you can get a hold of them at Tri-C Ghost Hunters on Facebook. Hold of them. They respond very quickly. So if you have any questions for them or would like to investigate the hospital, send them a message, go to their website, and everyone have a good evening.